When we suffer, is God punishing us for rebelling or sinning against Him? Now, this question requires a nuanced response. There are two layers that need to be addressed. The first layer is this: suffering and pain exist because of human sin. When God created the world, it was without suffering and without pain. And if we go to the first 2 chapters in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, what we find is there are no deadly viruses, there's no natural disasters, there's no cancer, there's no death. The world was perfect. And when Adam and Eve rebel with the serpent against God, suffering and pain, they enter the world through sin. The curse of sin, it is primarily a spiritual curse. All people are born into sin and they live in a state of alienation from God. We see this, Ephesians 2:1, it says, "And you were dead in the trespasses and sin." And then death to life happens through the work of Christ. The curse of sin, though primarily it is a spiritual curse, it does affect the physical as well. And this can be seen in natural disasters, diseases, cancers, and in viruses. Romans 8:20-22, it says, "For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of Him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself," don't miss this, "will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now." Romans is telling us that creation is also groaning for redemption. It's that return to what was in Eden. Therefore, suffering and pain exist because we live in a fallen world, and that was caused by human sin. Now, that's the first layer. The second layer is the question of whether or not God is punishing us when we suffer. And the answer to that, I believe, is no. Now, it's not uncommon for Christians today to think that the suffering we're experiencing is because God is punishing us for rebelling and sinning against Him. And while tragedies, cancers, human disasters, they do exist because humans allowed sin to enter into the world, this is not God's way of punishing us. And I believe this view is rejected by Jesus as well. In the Gospels, Jesus is approached by a man who is blind. And those around him say, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" And what is Jesus' response? Well, he says, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned." In essence, Jesus is rejecting the idea that this particular suffering was a result of a particular sin. Another story is found in Luke's Gospel. A stone tower had fallen and it crushed a group of people. And those around Jesus asked him, "Do you think that they were the worst offenders than all the others living in Jerusalem?" And Jesus' response was, "No." In another instance, Jesus is in a boat with his disciples, and a great storm begins to arise. And what does Jesus do? He gets up and rebukes the storm. Why? Because the storm was not from God. He can't rebuke himself. Rather than causing suffering, God becomes suffering for us in the person of Jesus. He suffers on a cross so we can experience eternal life where there's no pain, there's no tears, and there's no hurt. God did not cause your suffering, but He is present with you in your pain.